Hey, what's up, my little num-nums? It's Chamu Misu here. So, recently I did a rant video on why my pride is so popular, and in that video I mentioned that I had seen people make entire series because of my pride. One of the series I was referring to was I Hope So. I actually like the series so far. I have a few minor gripes with it, which I'll go over in this video as well, but overall, I really like it. That being said, it should be obvious that this review will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen I Hope So, I would recommend watching that first, then coming back here. If you like animal series, you will not be disappointed. I'll be starting off with the things I love about this series, since there are quite a few. While I review I Hope So, please enjoy the speed drawing I did of the Fire Kage Sahira from my upcoming series, The Heroes of Mosai. Quoting the description of the series, I Hope So is a webcomic that follows the story of three lionesses who fight against the dangers of nature and learn the value of found family. It is inspired by the independent animated series My Pride, but is in no way affiliated with it. It is but a different take on the same concept. Currently, the first season mainly focuses on Hope and her family, but during the end of the last episode, it seems she's ready to leave her pride and take on the world with her new girlfriend and half-sister. So, I expect the dangers of the nature and lessons of found family will really begin to flourish in later seasons. Anyway, starting off with the pros of this series, one of the main things I loved about it was the art. I love the art in this series. As soon as I turned on the first episode of the show and saw the opening scene with Hope as a cub and her mom and Jasper, the first thing I thought was, wow, this looks really good. I love the style, the shading, and the character design. Good character design takes into account things like color theory and shape language, things like that. And Jasper is a good villain not only because of his sinister, gruff voice and obviously uncaring and cruel personality, but because he follows some basic rules of character design. You want to make a villain? The best and most effective way to do that is to give him a dark design with sharp, pointy physical characteristics. Great choice. And don't even get me started with Hope. I'm absolutely in love with how cute her little lion face is. She looks like a little bow in the face, and I just can't. She's adorable. You don't want to know how long I spent looking at this panel, just admiring her face. Like, it's crazy. Again, a great display of shape language. Giving her a very rounded looking face makes her look really cute and innocent. And then the lighter color palette better helps to convey her light and hopeful personality. Another thing I really liked about this series was the voice acting. You know, the voice acting for these shows is starting to increase in quality on a drastic level. I remember when I first joined YouTube back in 2012, most of these series had voice actors that were, and no slander to them of course, but obvious novices. Most series had voice actors with really bad microphones, or sometimes the voice acting was just barely audible. With I Hope So, it really seems like they found professional voice actors. The only character that kinda stood out to me as being a bit performative was Hope's mother. I don't really think she's meant to be yelling all the time, but I also don't have any proof of that, so if she is, then yikes. I'm glad Hope got the heck away from there. But anyways, yeah, the voice acting is just great for this show. Everyone did a really fantastic job, and I especially appreciate the voice casting of the main character. One of the main reasons I can't watch series like Naruto for an extended period of time is because I just can't stand the main character's voice. I know this point is a bit subjective, but there's just something about Hope's voice that really resonates with me. It's very warm and steady, which I think makes it really easy to listen to. And it also conforms to her character. The third point I'd like to talk about is the story and world building. The story of I Hope So Season 1 is a simple but effective one. Hope's pride gets taken over by Jasper. Hope grows up in the pride, experiencing her mother grow cold towards her over time with the acceptance of the new king and baron of his cubs. Hope finds a friend/lover in Storm to confide in. Hope's main figure of support, her aunt, is killed in cold blood right in front of her, which prompts her to decide to leave her pride with her new girlfriend and half-sister. The story is simple But I believe what makes a good story is not just having a good premise, but also good execution. And in the case of a fictional series, especially good world building. And it's obvious to me that the creators took all of these things into account. In terms of world building, this series manages to be leagues above my pride in not even half the amount of episodes. Seriously, in these 4 episodes, we get lore about the Traveler, an insight into how Pride Lions demonize wanderers, Pride Lion naming conventions for prey, naming conventions for other Pride Lions, and multiple pieces of lore. We get these little lore intersplices in every episode. There's even some visual representation of the storytelling going on here. During the confrontation scene between Hope and Storm's mother, there's a panel where Hope's mom is illuminated by the sun rays, while Storm's mom is shadowed in the dark. This panel is a representation of Suns and Kansu, 2 of the 3 gods from my pride. While Vicious is illuminated by the light as she commits an act of violence representing the wrath of Suns, Tempest is shaded by the shadow of Kansu as she retreats, representing the forgiveness aspect of Kansu. This is the type of intertwined world building and storytelling that should have been done in My Pride. And this is exactly what I was talking about when I said My Pride doesn't really have that much world building. So now that you guys don't think I hate the series or anything farcical like that, let's move on to the cons and concerns. Disclaimer, a lot of these views are a bit nitpicky, but these are some things that just kind of nagged at me during my time watching the series. The first thing is the editing. So, I'm gonna be honest, the first time I watched this series, I actually found it pretty boring. Boring to the point where I found myself constantly checking the timeline on the video to see how close I was to the end of the episode. The vast majority of the editing in the first episode is just still panels. Granted, this improves greatly later on with later episodes, but definitely makes for a weaker first impression. Editing might not seem like a big deal, but a good edit can help to not only focus the scene, but also convey strong feelings of emotions to the audience. To showcase this, I made an edit of my own. Compare these 2 scenes.
Ow! Stay back, you stinky cackler! Ah!
Hey, get off!
Oh, you're not a cackler.
I don't even know what that is.
It's those weird, ugly creatures that laugh all the time.
Do I look like I'm laughing?
No, but what are you doing in their den anyway?
Ma said it's abandoned, so we're hiding. But now I'm bored. Follow me.
Ow! Stay back, you stinky cackler! Ah!
Hey, get off!
Oh, you're not a cackler.
I don't even know what that is.
It's those weird, ugly creatures that laugh all the time.
Do I look like I'm laughing?
No, but what are you doing in their den anyway?
Ma said it's abandoned, so we're hiding. But now I'm bored. Follow me.
See how the version I edited puts more focus on the characters by just simply making them closer to the screen and separating each panel? It's little techniques like that that can really help improve storytelling and the audience's visual understanding. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the name. So this is a pretty small reason again, but one I thought was relevant enough to bring up since it caused me a ton of confusion. The name of this series is forgettable. Usually when naming a series, people pick names that relate to the content in the series or the main premise of the series. Examples: The Lion King, a show about Simba, a lion becoming the successor to his highly regarded father. Kimba the White Lion, literally in the name, it's a story about Kimba, who's a white lion, and his life adventures. And of course, My Pride, which acts as a double entendre name that acts as both the name for a group of lions, as well as a statement for the pride that people in the LGBTQ community feel. These names make it easy to relay the purpose and center point of the show at a glance. The shortest possible synopsis of the show is the name. With that said, every time I try to think of the name of this series, I have a hard time because the name does not really encompass the story or premise at all. What does I Hope So sound like to you? Does it sound like an LGBT lion adventure show with found family themes? Not really. Honestly, to me, it sounds much more like a heavy emotional drama with human characters. But let me know what you think it sounds like in the comments. I just can't help thinking something like The Pride of Hope or Hope's Pride would have been a better, more memorable name choice. Next is the background music, or more accurately, the lack thereof. Just like the last point, background music is used to convey the tone of the scene it's being used in. While I Hope So is not completely absent of background music, there are quite a few scenes in the first half of the season that are, many of which would have heavily benefited from having it. Again, you know I love my examples, so here you go.
Your intentions are good, Vicious, but she needs to do it on her own.
My cup's always walked at her age.
What shall I call her by?
Nothing. What's the point of even naming her? She's not going to last a dry season.
Don't listen to Careful. It was the will of the great king that she lived. She has the soul of a survivor. Your intentions are good, Vicious, but she needs to do it on her own.
My cup's always walked at her age.
What shall I call her by?
Nothing. What's the point of even naming her? She's not going to last a dry season.
Don't listen to Careful. It was the will of the great king that she lived. She has the soul of a survivor.
Notice that one scene presents as a lot more intentional as the music crescendos when we zoom to Hope. It also works in tandem with the voice acting. While in the other example, the tone is completely carried by purely the voice actors and sounds kind of boring and flat. Just like background music is a tool, silence is also a tool. And I personally believe the best use for silence is tension. This is used in the very beginning scene of the same episode, so I'm unsure of why no music was placed here. Next, we have the lore cards. Throughout the show, we get these lore cards that give us constellations along with their backstory and meanings, telling us little tales of the lore. Now, I didn't think that these were too egregious during my second watch through the series, maybe because I was expecting them, but I have to be frank, during my first watch, they were absolutely torturous. You have to understand, between the still panel style editing and the confusing lack of auditory information during some scenes, in the first episode, I was already kind of bored to tears. These little lore cards just managed to add insult to injury by not only breaking up the flow of the story that already seemed to be very slow, but also by not really seeming to relate to anything happening in the episode. I get the urge to want to let your viewers know about all of your cool series lore, but I can't help to think that there were better ways to do that than this. I doubt anyone will remember any of these pieces of lore if you present them this way. I mean, I watched the entire series twice, then went over it again for this video, and the only card I can remember off the top of my head is the one where the male lion is getting chased by the rhino. Maybe there was a better way to do this? Finally, we have my last point of the cons list, which is a lack of direction. At the end of season 1, Hope is distraught with the death of her aunt and goes to her love interest Storm for support. She states that she doesn't want to return to the Pride, and Storm offers that they travel together. Storm says yes, and we end up getting a big emotional crescendo at the end, which is quite deserved. My issue with this is that it doesn't really give us a clear goal that we're aiming for, and therefore it kind of lessens the incentive to watch the second season. I suspect this has something to do with the traveler, and maybe the point of this series is more about journey, not the destination, or something like that. But from a narrative perspective, it just feels kind of strange that we don't have any concrete plans. I guess we'll just have to see where this leads in season 2. Well, that's it. That's my review of I Hope So, and since we're at the end, I have a little admission to make. When I first watched the series, I honestly didn't like it too much. In fact, I thought it had the exact opposite problems of My Pride. Whereas My Pride was a very emotional and all over the place with its character development, I found this series to be very boring and steady, which in my opinion, a boring series is a lot worse than a bad one, because at least in a bad series, there's still lots of entertainment value. But during my second watch, I actually started to realize that the main reason I found it boring was due to, again, the still frame editing and the occasional lack of background music, namely in the first and second episodes. Once I got past that and started to notice the characters, their motivations, their development, and most importantly, the emotional bond that they shared with each other, I realized the story was actually very well constructed and heartfelt, and I liked it. I think it should also be stated that I typically tend to watch shows that start off more exciting, like action and horror. My own series, The Heroes of Mosai, is an action horror adventure, so maybe this series can help me appreciate a new genre of story. I'm not sure, but I hope so. Hey Num Nums, this video took me weeks to write, so if you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on your opinions of I Hope So. Do you enjoy it? Do you dislike it? Let me know, and share the video if you want to see more like this. Alright, see you next time. Sayonara Num Nums.